Welcome to the Epic Success Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shannon Irvin. So we've been in a series all around what is it like to be a coach? How do I become a coach? How do I get clients as a coach? What's the right thing to sell as a coach and how do you sell it? Like, is this coaching business viable? We talked to Liz last week talking about how she went from a full-time career in the military to within 90 days growing a business, $21,000, knowing that she's creating legacy. This week, I have brought Sarah onto the podcast. She is one of our master neurocoach instructors, and she is in the process of moving into a role where we're going to be having teachers come in and get certified with a neurocoaching certification. That's something that's coming down the road. So if you're a teacher, listen up. This is definitely something you're going to want to put on your radar. But becoming a coach is an industry that is exploding. And I think a lot of the reason for that is people are realizing how much quicker and better and faster they can get to their end result with a coach by their side. And so, Sarah, welcome to the podcast. She has a business called Teaching Little Brains. I would love for you to talk about what got you into this crazy world of coaching to begin with, and what made you dive into neurocoaching certification specifically in wanting to learn how to do that, everything.
Yeah, Dr. Shannon, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. As always, it's a delight to chat with you, and I always take away so much. So thank you. I have been a teacher for, 20 years plus, and all of my life. I decided in kindergarten I wanted to be a teacher because I wanted to do check marks and I wanted to write on the blackboard. That was my reason, and carried it through. My mom had a box of stuff that she shared with me a couple of months ago that had like, I used to make books, and then at the back I would leave a page for comments for people to comment. So I've always kind of had that kind of teacher and thing in me. I was working, so I've had a lot of, I taught ESL, I taught overseas, I taught French immersion to young kids, I've taught grown-ups, I've taught teachers, I've coached teachers for the past 7 years. And I love the coaching part. That's like my jam. I love coaching. And as a teacher, you're almost like, teachers are coaches kind of, and entrepreneurs. They're a bit of jack of all trades. And so anyways, what got me into the neuro coaching part of it was that I like helping people kind of stretch their brains a little bit and challenge their thinking. And I just naturally have done that. And so, for example, I was a literacy coach. I would help people integrate outdoor learning with literacy and question like the practices that have just been because they've always been, and like question the benefit and the purpose of doing those things. And so I've always loved to like play in my brain and thinking, and I love things that challenge my thinking. And so I started learning, what is it now, 2.5 years ago-ish, I started listening to podcasts on somebody's recommendation. And I've always been a music person. So I never thought like, I don't want to listen to people talk. My parents listened to talk radio when I was little, and I thought it was the most boring thing ever as a kid. But I started listening to podcasts. I was listening to Jim Quick's podcast, Quick Brain, and they're short little brain hack, learning trick, speed reading, like facts about your brain, really interesting stuff, and really cool things that I thought this should be in school. Kids would love this, and this would be helpful to teachers. And I could see the curriculum connections, because that's kind of one of my superpowers, is integrating stuff like that. And so I was like, this has got to be in schools. Then, as it happens in the podcast world, I followed the trail. Jim had some guests on. They have their own podcast. They have other guests on. And, I followed the trail. And first of all, everybody that I heard was so interesting and fascinating and had something new that like I just had never entered that space before. And they all said they were also passionate about what they did. And they all said, I wish we had learned this in school. Mm-hmm. And it was stuff that I personally agree with, because it was things along the lines of skills that you would need in real life. Instead of having kids copy sentences off of the blackboard. Like, why not? Like Marie Forleo talks about, like, writing copy and interesting things. And like, there's just so much, like energetics, quantum physics, all, like, positive psychology, all of these things that I feel should be in school. So I follow the trail of podcasts, and I did Jill Stanton's podcast. And one day you were on it, Dr. Shannon. And this was, I think, October, and 2 years ago. And I was, you just, everything, it was like, oh, like the skies opened up. Like, I felt like I had been walking along this path, and like these stepping stones were being put under my feet as I was walking. And it was like Jim Quick stuff. And then, Marie Forleo's and all of these things, just Catherine Zankina and all of these things. And then there you were. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to get into this lady's space. And so you had just mentioned, like, oh, I have a neurocoaching course or whatever. And I was like, I need that for sure. Yes. And I realized this was bigger than, like, the memory tricks and hacks are super cool and would be engaging and would be helpful to students for sure, no question. But this was bigger. This was like mental wellness and how to, like, rewire your brain, how to help kids understand that they are not stupid. Because I had seen, around the same time that I was learning all this and heard you, I had been in a classroom coaching where a little 6-year-old boy ran out of the room and banged his head against the wall, saying he was stupid. And so he just kept saying, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. And he was crying, and he was obviously in stress, and he flee. Like, he was a fleer in stress. So I followed him and sat down, and I had been listening to you and listening to some people with some questions. So instead of saying, like, no, you're not, no, like, don't say that, that's not, in dealing with the behavior, you can't bang your head against the wall, don't throw the chair, I listened to him. And already with those, like, just taking a pause, like, we connected. And I was like, this is why this work is so important. We deal in the education system with the action, which, as I learned from you, is only a result of the thoughts and beliefs. And so if we don't deal with the beliefs, we can address the action all we want, but nothing's going to change. And on the same day, or the day after I heard you on Jill Stanton's podcast, I learned of a 10-year-old girl in a neighboring district who had committed suicide. And I was just like, this is enough. Like, I've seen too much, like, kids throwing chairs in classrooms and destroying the classroom, and that's a bad kid. No, like, imagine if those kids knew this stuff, and the educators and the people in the building, and were able to really help them understand the things that you teach and the things that I've learned since then. So I thought my chance was blown at entering the neurocoaching certification. But again, destiny, the next stepping stone was like, yep, the doors are open. So you called me. I had submitted an application, and you called me, and I was like, okay. And I had to figure stuff out to make it work. But it was so important to me. I found a way. I haven't looked back.
And I love it, because so many coaches, some coach business, right? Some coach health, some coach wellness, some coach life. I loved that you came in saying, I want to teach little brains, which is the name of your business. Like, I want to teach the people who are responsible for those brains, right? Because they've been taught a broken model, and they're teaching our children. And absolutely, teachers are coaches. You're coaching not only coaching the kids, you're coaching their parents, you're coaching the administrators that are around you, you're doing all of that. And so this vision that you caught of learning how the neuroscience of success, of transformation works, how to become a coach, and then how to build a business from there. And as you've gone on this journey, it's like we've watched this kind of beautiful package become unwrapped, right? You are a natural teacher at heart. You love teaching people, but what I've seen you light up with is teaching teachers, teaching people who are going to go out, and then, like, that ripple in the pond kind of effect. And we've been blessed. We saw that just natural gift that was given to you. And so we were like, we need her in our organization to coach in our organization too, because that's super important. And I know that you have another thing. So your business kind of took a different turn. You're not out necessarily creating your own clients coming to you, although you do have that. So I'd love for you to talk about how important the roadmap to this is what you do, take this step, trust the process, learn the model, practice the model, become an expert at the model, now learn the business. Talk about how important that was in your journey.
Yeah, that was mega important. Number A, you're right. Like it lights my soul on fire to help educators and coaching coaches, coaching teachers. I love that. I love working with the kids. And I love, like you said, I feel like I can support more by helping the teachers. Yeah, having that system, like as I said, I was a literacy coach and a coach in innovation and ingenuity. And I'm really able to see how this like innovative outdoor, like how it links into curriculum, how we can do things differently that really do address mental wellness and still get the data we need and still touch all those things to satisfy the requirements within the system, report cards and all the nonsense. And I tell people, like, trust the process. Like, I know you don't see it yet, but please, like, believe that it will happen. Your kids will love writing. For example, like I would be in a classroom for 3 weeks and kids who have never, like there was a grade 2 boy who refused, cried anytime writing was brought up whatsoever since kindergarten. And then within 3 weeks was writing independently and happily because the teacher like trusted the process. So I've been telling people, trust me, trust the process. So I knew I had to remember because it's tough, right? Like we don't see immediate drastic change and we think that everybody else is having immediate drastic change and we're not. And so we start to doubt. And you kept saying, trust the process. Here are the steps. So I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to my own advice that I give to teachers. I know that I want teachers to trust me when I say that. Therefore, I will trust you when you say that. And it made it so much more easy and straightforward. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, I just do this next. Okay. Because I am someone also, as you know, who is like, am I doing it right? Like I always have to check every step. I wanted the validation and to make sure I wasn't messing anything up or harming anybody. I didn't want to mislead people or harm people or do it wrong was my story. So that was really helpful to have the steps because it's just follow the steps and you follow A, B, and C and you'll get to D. And so, oh my gosh, it was so helpful and so supportive. And going through it with people who are also doing the same thing was like, oh my goodness, like just so helpful. So it's very clear that was like, and you just take it and replicate it. And it couldn't be easier and more effective.
Yeah, we're the what do you call like the cake box, the cake mix, you know, how you create your own coaching business. You need to take all those ingredients, put it in the bowl, mix it, put it in the oven and trust the process and boom. So I would love for you
and I always
about that. I would just love for you to talk a little bit about your journey. Like, so you were in the schools, you're getting your certification, you are certified as a master neuro coach now. And you kind of caught the vision for something bigger, not just doing it within the role that you were in, but taking it to a bigger scale. So I would love for you to talk about that. That's part of the process as you go through this brain priming, which is part of the neurocoaching model. All of a sudden, other things were popping into your mind that you were like, wait, I was not expecting this turn. So I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. So I was like, I don't know if I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't think I want a business. I was never that person that was really excited about having a big team and making, billions of dollars. That scares me a little bit still. And I would just be happy to like, I don't need the name and lights. I'm not interested in any of that. I just want to help. And so, yeah. And still, like you said, people are finding me, which is exciting. Like I can do it. I can just by following the steps of the program. So in my brain priming, which is part of the program, I am making these things happen exactly how I want them. People are coming to me in, kind of almost one at a time, which is very comfortable for me, and asking me to do the things that I love to do, which is helping them coach or helping them in their classroom or implementing the things that I'm learning. Can you come support me in my classroom? Yes, please. And other organizations and companies, like I'm working with a educational change maker entrepreneur in the UK, Julia Black, Lights On, and we help schools and families with their kids who are disengaged from the system, who are just the school classroom is not really working for them. And so helping them with, and we do brain coaching or coaching with them. And so just with Teaching Little Brains, I started a podcast, which is my love because I get to teach this stuff and it's pretty low risk. So it keeps my brain happy.
Didn't you just hit 4,500?
I just hit 4,500 list downloads, which is like mind blowing. And the first, thank you. The first episode, I really thought my computer was going to explode and or laugh at me when I hit this publish button. Like I really was freaked out. I thought something terrible was going to happen. My house was going to collapse. And I just did it because I trusted your process. And I just did the things, and then it happens. Things unfold when you trust the process and do the things. And it's brain science, like you say. So I've been invited into other spaces. So I, am an entrepreneur, which you keep telling me in that sense where like, my business isn't huge. I'm not sure if I want it to be huge, but I'm kind of freelancing for other people and it's really making me happy. And, I'm really enjoying it. So next year, I'm actually taking a leave of absence from my school board job and giving this a go. So exciting.
Full-time go. And the neat thing about this is, there is this marketplace vision that I have to be this like on stage, big personality, blah, blah, blah. And if that's you, and that's, that's your nature, then coaching's for you. And like Sarah's like, I just really deeply want to impact people. And we saw her gifts right away. So she's coaching for us and she's coaching for Julia's business and potentially a couple others. So now she's helping organizations as an applied coach. That's what we call that. But she's in doing these amazing things. And, in our business and in the Epic Success world, we're starting a division specifically for teachers to go through the neurocoaching certification. So who better to spearhead that, to run that than Sarah? So the need is there, and it doesn't have to look like the glossy magazine. It can actually look exactly like you want it to look. And I love that you bring forward that this is what you primed. And if you think about even the prime that you did, like my clients will come to me. Well, I came to you after I saw, you within our organization. Julia came to you, and, and then of course, relationships that we have are coming to you too. So it's fun to watch it unfold. And this is something Liz and I were talking about too. I love that you brought it up. It's exactly what you wanted it to be. So talk about that a little bit, like being able to look in your world, you're a mama, right? You've got all those things, and look into your world and say, I want to create the thing that makes me happy, right? That it's a wealth isn't just money. It's also creating this freedom within your own existence to do the things you love the most.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where a bit of the internal battle came in, because like I first of all, I had to clear out that money story, that it's not okay to want to make a lot of money, that it's greedy and wasteful. I had the wastefulness thing up and down. But now I'm like, I want a Tesla. I want a Tesla SUV. I want my mortgage balance to be zero so that I can live every day the way I want to live. And the first thing that blew my mind that you pointed out that on that podcast that I was like, am I the only one that doesn't know this? And I had to like convince no, we're not taught this, was when you said we can choose our thoughts. Yeah. I was like, wait, what do you, like, rewind, what do you mean? And it's kind of a bit like, well, yeah, of course we can, but it's also like, but what does that mean? Because we tend to just like, something pops in our head and we believe it. So for example, oh, I think I want to be a neuro coach. Oh, well, you can't do that because you're a teacher and, you know, the board and the conflict and you don't have time and blah, blah. And oh yeah, that's true. And so, you know, you let yourself talk yourself out these things. And so then you said you can choose it. What other options could you have as thoughts? And I was like, oh my goodness. I could just be like, listen, you can take a back seat right now. Negative Nancy. Oh, no offense to any Nancy's out there. Negative person, brain. And thank you for keeping me safe, but I'm going to choose a different thought and I'm going to go for it. And so that was one of the like, what? So I just kept following that, reminding myself of that. And I can, and you forget as you go along, because we default back to what we've learned and practiced for a long, long time. And so I kept saying like, well, I don't want to do that. And you were like, well, you don't have to, it can be whatever you want. I was like, oh yeah. Okay. It could be whatever I want. Okay. So then what do I want is the clarify part of, you know, your process. And so in what do you want question, people always know what they don't want. It's like, oh, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. Great. What's the opposite of that? So I want a few of my own clients because I love that. And it's probably, you know, helping locally and that kind of thing. I want to support teachers around this area, possibly as like a volunteer kind of basis or whatever, giving back. I want a Tesla. I had to get really honest. I do want money because we're like, well, are you, because I kept saying, I want to help. I just want to help. And so I was giving all this stuff away for free. And you said, well, do you think it's easier to help if you're broke or easier to help if you have more money? And I was like, oh my gosh, you're a wizard. Like how, so obvious, but it
no, we can't see I can't see my own blind spots, and neither can you. I mean, and that's the thing. That's the beauty of the certification and being able to learn the model, is because we are too close to our own thoughts, right? And that's why the coaching business in and of itself is so powerful. It's not that somebody is not smart and can't figure it out on their own. It's that we help them get there faster, easier. And like, it's fine. You know, you can figure out and stay in the trenches with that thought, and it will continue to circle back in every scenario in your life until you go, this isn't quite working out. And, or get to the point where you're like, wow, you know, and you think about it, like all the things you've done for free, you don't complete, but everything that you actually pay for, you put your attention on, right?
100%.
So we almost rob people of doing that for themselves by saying, no, I'll give it to you for free. Well, now I just devalued everything, right?
And that's the thing I learned as a coach. Like I care enough about my clients and the people I'm working with to not let them out of what I used to think was kindness and compassion and empathy, hold on to those things that aren't serving them. So yeah, I'll push you and you may want to, like you say, throw a shoe at me, but it's like when you work out and your trainers, like you like hate them in the moment, but you love them afterwards because they pushed you somewhere where you wouldn't have gotten on your own. Yes. So yeah, that's totally. And then I started, I just followed the process, Dr. Shannon. Like I did the priming, I clarified, I erased the things that I didn't want. I decided thoughts I wanted, I primed those in and things started happening. I want to coach inside your space. I always wanted to be a neuro coach instructor. That was like my dream. And now it's happening only because I followed the step-by-step process. I wanted to work. When you introduced me to Julia, I was like, oh my goodness, because like I said, one of my strengths is connecting curriculum with this other stuff that's engaging and meaningful. And that's what she does. So I was like, I want to work with her. Boom, I'm working with her. And like Sarah Longoria with the RRT, the tapping, and she does coaching too. And she wants to hire, like, it's just, you can just decide what you want and have it if you follow the process.
Yeah. And then you can help your clients do that too. And you're doing
Yes.
it in a very unique way. So I love, we've got Liz who's growing this business, and Chantal, same thing. And your business is thriving. And you're able to help huge communities. And I'd love for you to talk to maybe even the teacher, but certainly the person sitting there, maybe through this last year and what we've gone through with this global pandemic. There's a lot of people that are like, they've been on a 10-year track, or they've been on a track to do whatever. And now they're saying, you know what? I think there's something bigger. Like, I want to create something bigger, but they're scared. Sarah, you were too. So like,
Yep.
they're scared to say yes to themselves. Right. So I'd love for you to, like, what would you say to her sitting there listening to us right now and wondering, like, man, should I even take a chance on building something like this?
Yeah, for anybody, I say educator, but I mean anybody in education. So like you said, my space is called Teaching Little Brains, and I talk, hey, teacher brain is kind of the lingo, but I mean anybody in education, including parents, really, because they're on the team of educating the little brains. As educators, anybody in education, and parents, especially this year, are definitely, nose deep in it. I am now too, with my own child at home. And so I know, like, if it's anything like it is where I am, the pendulum swings. One year we're focused on math is the big focus, and we got to get these kids learning these math. And then we swing over on literacy. We got to build up their literacy, and there's this innovation and that innovation, and people come and go through the positions that make the decisions about what's going on in the classroom like hotcake. They just flip over like hotcakes, and things change. And I see now why teachers get, you know what? I'm going to close my door. I'm going to do what I know is good for kids. And like, that's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise. And I think that this year, I mean, I feel like the education system has needed a shakeup for a really long time, like a century. But this year has kind of revealed a lot of the things that, number one, we possibly took for granted before, like being the advantage of being face to face with people.
Right.
And the inequities in the system and all of these kinds of things. And a lot of people, there's a lot of talk in a lot of educational spaces about we can't go back to what it was. We need to move forward and look forward. And sure, there are things from this time that we might need to carry forward. What are they? What is the purpose and benefit of those things? And how is it beneficial? So I know that teachers, educators, anybody in education can be overwhelmed by like, this might sound like another thing. Oh my gosh, this is another thing on my plate that I need to do. I don't know how to do this. How is this going to fit in with curriculum? I don't have time because I have to do X, Y, and Z expectations and standards and all the things. This, like when you talk about a plate and we feel like everything is added on our plate, this is like a whole different plate. It clears all the junk from your plate before and opens things up. And when you have this, and when this becomes like ingrained in your practice and in your students' minds, like it's just so calm, and like they're just so much more, for lack of a better term, emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
They can, I hate to use the word manage, but everybody's able to like manage, for lack of a better word, their brain, or at least like understand that everything is okay and where it comes from and what their brain is doing. And so if you're feeling like, I don't know, this sounds like another thing, will it work for me? It is a big investment, all of that stuff. Like, what is it costing you now? And like, I always think about that when I talk about writer's workshop, when I was introducing that to people and they were like, oh, this just seems like a lot of work. Well, is it easier to try to get everybody to do the same thing at the same time? Like, this is, I'm not articulating this well, but if you're feeling overwhelmed, at the end of your rope, what do I do? How do I do it? Where do I go next?
Yeah.
This just opens the door. It makes you see, it's like putting on glasses and making you see things clearly, and connections that are like, you feel, you know how to connect with people, and you see people as humans. It opens up compassion and empathy and all of those things for you and the little brains that you work with.
They get to learn the brain science of how a mind works. And once you have the
Yeah.
operating system, then all the other things, not that they're not important, but you know where they fit. Like,
That's what I want to say. Yes,
yeah,
that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah, because I mean, you said it, it's that it's no, what you've done, or what a lot of education has done, is there's all these platforms, practices, curriculums, blah, 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 you know, all this stuff that we're like robots, follow this one, follow that one, follow this one, follow that one. But nowhere in there are we like looking at how does a person, any person, whether it's a young child or a 60-year-old adult, how does a mind, how does a brain learn to think, learn to become successful, learn to fail, learn to all of it. And it is so step by step, but we've ignored all that. Right.
Yep.
And so this gives you like understanding of exactly how your brain is wired, how to clarify the things that need to get clarified, how to erase the things that kids didn't choose, we didn't choose, right? They were just automatic environmental cues about money, success, failure, worth. Am I stupid? All those things, right? Those were mirrored things because our prefrontal cortex doesn't have the ability when we're young to say that's a lie, right? It just gets received as truth. We get to learn how to see what they're believing and help them neutralize and erase the things that don't serve them, and amplify and like pour fuel on the things that will get them what they really want.
And it helps them because they can, and you, because you can do this too, but it kind of separates them from their brain. So
Yeah.
it's like, I am not my thoughts. If I have this thought that I am stupid, I can separate that from, and I can say like, oh, my brain is doing that to keep me safe. And it takes the pressure off those poor little brains where they're like, oh, good, nothing's wrong with me.
I'm not broken.
My brain is designed to do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, brain, like, let's just simmer down for a second and we're going to tackle this, right? Like, it really gives them a sense of common relief that they're not responsible for thinking. If they're not choosing to think those thoughts, it's not their fault that they have them. It's like you say about the sweaters, which is, I think, what I was trying to get at with the plate. It's like we're piling all of these things on the plate to try to cover up the fact that we are using the wrong plate.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said before, like, you can address all the behavior and the actions all you want, but if you don't get to the belief underneath it, nothing's going to actually change. And so this like helps get to the belief and and teaches them how that even becomes a belief so that they can override it and rewire you can rewire your brain. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. And the thing is, this is the thing that drives me the most crazy. It's easy. It's
yes.
So well, I should say it's simple. The process is simple. It's only if you follow it and trust the process, it becomes easy. But most people don't slow down long enough to speed up, right? They don't slow down enough to say like, what is the operating systems that's operating everything? What we think about money, what we think about time, what we think about our children, what the child thinks about their teacher, their surroundings, their environment, all of that. And it gives you the tools to truly be able to serve deeply. So I'm so excited for you as you're like building this mini empire. I was going to call it a mini empire, like, cause I know you don't want it to like feel big, but not feeling big is just kind of part of your personality. You're a person who likes things to kind of go with the flow, and you don't, and so you've heard from one person that in this series who's like, go get her, driver. That's not who Sarah is. And Sarah is like this deep well, right? This deep well that just, but at the same time, like, because she's done the work, it's all of these different environments. People are coming to her and saying, hey, can you coach with us? Can you coach with us? Can you coach with us? And now all of a sudden she has this business that she can pour fuel on it if she wants to. And honestly, like overnight, if she wanted to, she can keep it where it is, but it's her choice. And isn't that like the beautiful thing about being certified is it becomes really your choice, your life to design what it is that you want.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's like, if you even have a little inkling that like this is something that it's ringing with you somewhere, like I had to sit down and take a moment and really tune into my core. And I knew that this just felt right. And any resistance that I was feeling, any like, oh, but it's expensive, or oh, but I don't have time, or oh, but I have curriculum, or oh, but whatever, fill in the blank, was because I was becoming out of alignment with that intuition, that core knowing that like this was what I wanted, and that was just fear. And so if you have it and you sit with it and you're like, this feels like peace, it is the right thing to do. And everything will fall into place. Just like Dr. Shannon said, like trust the process, things fall into place.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a teacher and you're like, I need to talk to Sarah specifically to talk to her about my circumstance, we'll work out a way that you can talk to her directly about the certification, because I think it's important. She's going to be the instructor for teachers only, and that's something that we're gearing up for. So she's the right person. I don't speak your language. I speak the brain language, and that's what it's all taught through. But Sarah knows she knows. She's been in the trenches, so she knows what you're going through, and she knows what it feels like to be under the pressure of all the expectations and all of the requirements, and yet at the same time have that big desire to see your kids in your classrooms or your kids in your school really thrive, right? And so we'll work that out on the page here. If you're listening to the podcast, in the show notes, there's a link to apply for the certification. When you do that, make sure you mention that you're a teacher, and that will flag us to connect you with Sarah for your application interview. But as we wrap up, I would love for you to just share what your vision for the future looks like, and any last thoughts that you have as we wrap up today.
Yeah. Oh gosh. My vision, the reason why I even started was to get this in schools, like period, pretty much. And so because didn't want to hear of see another little brain or older brain. Like when I used little brain, I mean all students fleeing the classroom, feeling like really having that story that they fully believe that they are stupid, or even like these kids that are way too young to have stress, and people being so focused on grades and like slogging through school before they get to do what they love. That's just it. I don't want to see that anymore. And so my dream is that that doesn't happen anymore, that we are able to give kids the tools to in real time understand how their brain works, so that they don't get to our age and have to do all this work that we're doing to look back. Where did this story come from? How do I get rid of it? What do I put on instead? We're doing all of this. We say kids are resilient. Well, then why do we have all these grown-ups with all of these issues? Right? Because that's where it starts. So I want to help the kids go through in real time with these tools so that they can learn to their passions. They can be more resilient, empathetic, compassionate, contributing, all of the things that we really want for the students and the little brains in our lives, whether it's our kids or our learners, and to help educators feel fulfilled again. Like nobody feels like they're, from the people I talk to, go home feeling like unfulfilled. I'm not doing a good job. And then I come home and I'm not a good parent. And then, this will give you those skills, and in a true foundational based level. So my dream that this is just regular practice. It's not even part of the curriculum. I think like that whole thought is outdated. I think this is what education looks like. We educate people in this. Yeah. And of course they need to, learn how to read. They have to have skills, but like, who says a 15-year-old has to learn how to wire an electrical circuit because they're 15? That stuff. Anyway, that's besides the point. My vision is that this is, a regular foundation of the educational system, no matter what it looks like, so that also people aren't grown up and you ask them like, now my kids are older and they've left. Well, what are you going to do? Oh, I don't know. Well, what are you into? What do you like? I don't know. Well, what did you like as a kid? I don't remember. Like, why is that happening? So I don't want them to lose their passion. I want them to have these skills so that they feel healthy and confident, and they go out in the world and do the great things that they're meant to do without feeling like they're stupid or cutting their lives short.
Man, so we got to call forward an army of teachers that get certified in this model so that it can get out in the educational system and truly change the future for these kids now, so that they grow up to be passionate, fulfilled, knowing how to go after the things that they want.
And school leaders, like administrators and system leaders, like, oh my goodness.
I love it. Girls on fire. So Sarah, thanks for being on the podcast today, for sharing your heart, for sharing your journey through this process. It has been a process, right? You started in one idea, and as it grew, your vision grew, and now today you are this kind of go-to coach in this space. And I'm excited to be able to have teachers and administrators and people involved with the school come in, get certified, have you lead them through the process, and start to change the way education looks, so we can start to know that we're making that impact. So thanks so much for being on the show today. I love you to pieces.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
What's the best way people can connect with you? Where do you hang out on socials? Is it Teaching Little Brains on the podcast itself? We'll link that up in the show notes. And then what's your favorite social media channel? Where do you hang out?
Oh gosh, you can find me. So I am on Instagram. It's at teaching.little.brains. And then, my podcast. Perfect. And Facebook. I have a page. I also have a group for teachers. That's really cool. So yeah, you can search the group. So.
Awesome. We'll put it in there. And Sarah, you're amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep shining bright. Keep standing in the gap for the next generation. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much. It was awesome as always. Thank you.
Okay, so we're talking during the series, and that's why I wanted to bring Sarah in. Sarah's not your traditional entrepreneur coach. She's somebody who really has a big mission and a big vision, and she's doing it through the platforms of others like ours and Lights On and other communities. So if you heard this and you're somebody who's like, oh my gosh, she's speaking directly to me, click the link, apply to the neurocoaching certification. We'll get you in a group with just teachers, and you guys will change the future of our children. All right, that's what we have for you this week for the Epic Success podcast. We're going to continue in our series next week, where you'll hear from a powerhouse entrepreneur by the name of Chantal. We'll see you then. For now, see you. Make sure you're the creator of your thoughts, because those thoughts create the reality that you're seeing. All right, bye for now.